So I'm going to start with a quote, and this is a quote from, I don't know if you've heard of her, Oprah? Anybody? The biggest adventure you can ever take is to live the life of your dreams. And I'll tell you, I think that if that wasn't said by Oprah, it would be considered cliche. Anybody else that said it, if you go talk to people about living the life of their dreams, you talk to people about, hey, what are your dreams? Let's go after our dreams. They'll roll their eyes at you, right? And go, life of my dreams, I'm just trying to pay the bills. I'm just trying to survive. People are really skeptical about it. They don't even buy into it. But I think one of the most important things that we can do is to never stop dreaming. That's the place that greatness starts, is people that are willing to imagine, if I could do anything, what would I do? Right? And that's where it starts. It starts with dreaming. And for me, I try to dream every day, whether it's through journaling or reading my affirmations or just daydreaming or imagining what's possible for me, or conversations with my friends, with my peers, asking them, what are your dreams? I always ask people that question. It doesn't matter if I'm at an airport. What are your dreams? And they're usually taken aback. Most people, they haven't thought about it in so long, they got to go, gosh, and they're remembering back to the last time they actually were even present to what was possible for them or what they really wanted, because they've gotten so focused on the grind. And so I'm here to say that the life of your dreams, whatever that looks like for you, that you start tapping into that on a daily basis. And I also want to say that the life of your dreams, I'm not talking about some imaginary life like, oh yeah, I want to be a famous actor. Not that that's not realistic or that you can't do that. But what I'm talking about, when I say the life of your dreams, I'm talking about not sometime in the future, but right now. Right now. If you could wave a magic wand that took your current life situation, it didn't move you to a different state or a different country, it didn't even change your occupation, it just went, what do I need? How do I need to start thinking about my life and living? What do I need to start doing in a way that my current life becomes the life of my dreams in this moment? And you might have bigger dreams and greater dreams and future dreams that still exist, but I'm all about waking up every day and making that day the day that I live the life of my dreams. So that's a distinction that hopefully you realize, wow, yeah, it doesn't have to be far off. Like, how could I make today the life of my dreams, right? How do I make today a level 10 out of 10? Another quote I want to share, and this is a wake-up call for me. It's from Robin Sharma, New York Times bestselling author. He said, the saddest thing in life is to wake up one day and realize that you could have been, done, and had so much more. And when I first thought about that quote, or when I first heard it, I imagined going through life, your entire life, and then waking up one day when you're, 50 or 60 or 70, and looking back and going, man, I could have been, done, and had so much more. And I thought, you know what? That doesn't create necessarily as much of a sense of urgency for us to make changes. So I realized that it's not about waking up one day far in the future, knowing that you could have been, done, and had so much more. It's about every day waking up and looking at yesterday. Or at the end of the day, looking at today and going, I could have been, done, and had so much more. So again, this message, the Miracle Morning, my message is really about how do you maximize every day? How do you win every day? Because if you want to have an extraordinary life, whatever your goals and dreams are for the future, those are only created, those are only achieved, those are only attained one day at a time. And most of us live with that mindset like there's a lack of urgency, where it's the someday mindset, like, I've always got tomorrow. There's always next week. There's always next month. This year sucked. I'll do it better next year. It sucked again. I'll do better next, right? And we live with this mindset like there's always tomorrow. And I think that's arguably the number one cause of mediocrity in our lives, of unfulfilled potential, is that we never decide that now is the most important time in our life. That today is the single most important time in our life, because every day we live, the only thing that's real is that day. The future doesn't exist yet and the past is gone. It's that day. It's today. Making sure you win every day. And here's the argument, if you will. I don't know if I call it an argument, but the case that I'm going to make over the next 45 minutes is that if you want to take your life to the next level, physically, mentally, financially, emotionally, relationally, in any area of your life, if you want to go to the next level, if you want to achieve your full potential, my case is that the single most determining factor, the single most important thing that you can do is to improve how you start your day. Because if an extraordinary life is created by stringing together extraordinary days, well, every day starts with what? The morning. How do you start your morning? And if you have an unfocused, unproductive, lethargic morning, one where you procrastinate by hitting the snooze button, right? Tell the universe that, no, I don't really want to wake up and create an amazing life as much as I want to lay here for 9 more minutes unconscious, right? If that's how you start the day, then an unfocused, unproductive morning tends to lead to an unfocused, unproductive life. But on the other hand, if you nail that first hour, if you have a focused, peaceful, productive, dream-filled, goal-oriented, empowering, exciting, energizing morning, it's hard to not win the day. And on those rare occasions that circumstances outside your control beat you down, the beauty of it is you don't go to bed going, oh my God, it was a horrible day and I got to wake up and face my problems again. The beauty of having a powerful morning practice, a morning ritual, a miracle morning, if you will, is the idea that every night when you go to bed, you're not waking up to your problems, you're waking up to that precious, that you time, that me time, that golden hour where you get to do whatever you want. You get to become a better version of yourself than you were the day before, so you're more equipped to take on those challenges and problems that you have in your life. And we all have them, right? Raise your hand. Anybody not have any problems or challenges? No? Okay. Joe, your life is it's peachy. So, your wife's sitting right here, so you can't, I'll ask her, I'll quiz her. So ultimately, if you nail that first hour, you nail your life. And guess what? Here's the thing. I'm not the first one to say this. If you do research, you go to Google and you Google successful people that wake up early, guess what you'll find? A lot of articles about this, right? And if you go study some of the greatest teachers, Robin Sharma, who he's one of the best. If you don't know who he is, by the way, he's from Canada, one of the best-selling authors of all time. He's sold millions of copies of his books all over the world. In fact, the U.S. is where he's the least. He's a New York Times best-selling author here, but this is like the smallest market. He's sold books everywhere. So Robin Sharma, every year, he always does kind of like a best year, how to have your best year ever video series. And it's usually like 5 to 7 videos. And here's the thing. One of those videos is always about what? Your morning routine. Always. Always about your morning routine. But guess what? Most people, they watch that video, right? And they go, okay, I watched the series. I saw all 7 videos. I'm not a morning person. So which one do you think they're going to ignore and focus on the others? You follow? Right? Yeah, they're going to go, well, I hate waking up early. I'm not a morning person. Tony Robbins, same thing. Talks about his hour of power. Talks about waking up early. But again, it's always mixed in with all these other lessons. And what I realized, I thought, when I started doing this, you guys are going to hear the whole story here in a minute, but I realized this isn't just one of 7 things that can change your life. This is the most important thing. And that's what it was for me. The most important thing that you can do, because it's the only thing that sets up the context and the mindset for the rest of your day. So here's my question for you. Why did you wake up this morning? I want you to think about that for a second. Did you wake up for the same reason that most people wake up? They waited until they had to wake up because they had to be somewhere, do something, answer to, or take care of someone else. That's why most of us wake up, right? We go, I have to be at work at blank, therefore I have to get up at blank to make it on time. I'm going to set the alarm clock 3 snoozes earlier, right? So that I can procrastinate at least 3 times. Start the day with that energy, right? That really, I'm going to conquer my life energy by laying here unconscious instead of doing something amazing. And so that's why most people wake up. And here's what I realize. If you think about the energy that you put out into the universe when you do that, right? It's like, I believe that when the alarm clock goes off in the morning, or when your eyes open up in the morning, that's life's first gift to you. It's its first opportunity that goes, hey, how do you want to live? What kind of life do you really want to live? You have all this morning, you can wake up, do anything you want with your life. What do you want to do? And to send that message that goes, I'd rather do nothing. I know I could become extraordinary. I'd rather do nothing. And I think that the morning, if you think about it, it's really a time to make yourself strong. Like if you make yourself strong in the morning, mentally, intellectually, physically, and emotionally, right, then you are that much stronger to make sure that you do win the day. So I'm going to take you guys back a little bit. This is me at 15 years old living my dream. How many of you, as a radio DJ, by the way, how many of you, by show of hands, had a dream growing up? Fireman, entrepreneur, mom, whatever it is, right? So my dream was a little bit unconventional. It was I wanted to be a nationally syndicated radio disc jockey, right? Like Ryan Seacrest, or for you older folks, Casey Kasem, right? But that was the dream, and for me, it was something that I didn't think would happen until long after I was 15. I'm only 15. I started DJing school dances, and I thought maybe after high school, maybe after college, or sometime in college I could get the job. Well, I get a phone call one day from the local radio station manager, Larry Gamble, and he manages 103.7 FM in my hometown of Oakhurst, California, up near Yosemite National Park. You know how radio station DJs always have that DJ voice? Right, so Larry calls, like, Hal, hey buddy, this is Larry Gamble down here at 103.7 FM. How are you? I heard you are a DJ and you do school dances all over town, and we want a high school student to host a radio show every week. Would you be up for coming down and interviewing for that job? I was like, heck yeah, oh my gosh, this is my dream, right? I'm 15. I go down, I interview for the job. I think I was the only one that was interviewing, but regardless, I got it. And I was proud and I was excited and I felt awesome. So I'm walking out the door, and as I'm walking out, I thanked him, and I'm just excited. My mom's in the car. I'm 15. I can't drive, right? So she's in the car waiting for me, and I'm excited, and I walk out, and as I'm about to leave, he goes, Hal, one more thing. DJs always have what's called an on-air moniker, which is your nickname that you use on the radio. A hip, cool on-air moniker. He said, make sure you think of one by next Thursday's radio show. I said, okay. And then I walk out, and I'm going, I don't have a moniker. I don't have a nickname. What am I going to call myself? And I get into the car, and my mom's sitting there, and I don't say anything. And I'm just in my head going, what's my nickname going to be? What's my moniker? I don't know. And she looks over and goes, sweetie, did you get the job? What happened? I said, oh, yeah, I start next Thursday. She goes, why are you saying, you don't seem excited? You look like you're stressed out. I said, Mom, I have to have a cool DJ name by next Thursday. And you guys name me Hal. And that's like the dorkiest name ever. I don't know, what am I going to do with that? And she said, first of all, that's not a dorky name. You're named after your grandfather. And second of all, I can help you think of a cool DJ name. Okay, Mom. What's your idea for a cool DJ name? This should be good. She goes, well, just rhyme it with Hal. Be like my pal Hal or your pal Hal. Or she goes, ooh, I know. Use slang. Be yo pal Hal. So proud of herself, right? Mom always tried to be, she'd use the word yo when she tried to be cool. Yo, kids, it's time to go. So I looked at her and I said, Mom, you're such a dork. I'm never going to be yo pal Hal. Nice try, but never, ever, ever in a million years. And I think this next slide teaches us two lessons. Number one, Mom is always right, yes or yes. And number two, and this is really the important lesson, I think any time in life, it's be more open-minded. I think that as a society, we're pretty closed-minded. Like we think that the way we see the world is correct, and the way that everybody else sees the world is wrong. Like our viewpoints and our beliefs and our perspective, like we have it figured out, right? Maybe not everything figured out, but we think the way we see the world is right and everybody else is wrong. And one of the most important lessons I learned from a mentor when I was 19 years old was always be open-minded and try to learn something from every other human being you meet. He said that every person that you meet is superior to you in some way because they have life experiences that you don't have. Even a child can teach you things, right? How many of you learn things from your kids? Right? I learn as much from my kids as I teach them, about love and about unconditional love and about just finding joy. What? Negotiating, right? Yes. Yeah, we should have, child negotiating, it would be like an angle for a book, right? Yeah, world-class negotiating from a 4-year-old or something, yeah. So for me, the DJ thing was the dream until 4 years later, I'm on a major radio station, and I get an opportunity to go into sales. And I said, absolutely not. Last thing I want to do. And a friend of mine tricks me, essentially, into going into the sales office just with him because he had to pick up supplies. Well, apparently it was, I wouldn't call it an ambush, but he had let his manager know, hey, my buddy Hal's going to come in. He'd be great at this. You should talk to him. I'll bring him in. So I go in, and I had said no to my friend Teddy dozens of times. There's no way I'm going to be a salesperson. I meet the manager, a man named Jesse Levine, one of my best friends now. And he's just real authentic, not salesy at all. My buddy Teddy was really salesy, you know what I mean? Well, Jesse's cool, he's down to earth, and he just really lays out the opportunity, and I say, okay, I'll give it a shot. And I start selling. 10 days into it, I broke the all-time company record. I'd sold more anybody heard of Cutco knives before? Okay, so I started selling Cutco knives. I had no ambition of it being anything more than a summer job, make a few extra bucks. And 10 days in, I break the all-time record, and I think, okay, maybe this is for me. Maybe I can do this. Well, here's a question for you. Does everything happen for a reason? We all hear that, don't we? Like, that's one of the oldest adages, most repeated advice. And it's always when you're in the worst mood that someone says it to you, right? You're always having a bad day and they put their hand on your shoulder and say, hey, I know you can't see it now, buddy, but everything happens for a reason. You'll see. Right? And you're just thinking or saying, shut up. Like, I don't want to talk to you right now. I don't want to hear that right now, right? Let me be miserable by myself. I don't want to hear it. So here's a take. In fact, I'm just curious. By a show of hands, how many of you, you believe that philosophy? And by the way, I'm not a wrong or right answer. But how many of you believe everything happens for a reason? By a show of hands. So a little less than half, okay. And how many of you, by a show of hands, either do not buy into it or aren't really sure? Okay, so it's about equal. So I'm going to share a distinction that I had that I think will apply to everybody, whatever side of the thought process you're on. Everything does happen for a reason. However, it's not as most people think. I think most of us, we think the reason is predetermined, and we think we're supposed to figure it out. When the reality is we're supposed to decide what it's going to be. We get to choose the reason. We get to create the reason. The same bad thing happens to two different people. The reasons one person has decided on is, well, I always have bad luck and life sucks and, Obama's in office and, right, they've got all these reasons that don't empower them, that make them feel disempowered and helpless. The same tragedy or adversity happens to another person. You say, hey, what do you think the reason this happened to you is? Same exact circumstance or event. But they've chosen different reasons, and the quality of their life is very different. They go, well, you know what? I think this happened to me because I'm supposed to learn something from this. They might not even know what it is, but they've got an optimistic, right? They're open. They're looking for value from their adversity. Same bad things happen to two different people, but what reasons you choose really determines the quality of your life. Well, for me, I mentioned earlier that I've had two rock bottoms in my life that I've gotten so much value from that I decided to share it with you and to be a speaker and to be an author. My first rock bottom happened when I was 20 years old. I had been selling Cutco for a year and a half. I had been asked to give a speech at a conference. It was a small group about this size. And sometimes I would do big events where there's like 1,000 sales reps in the audience. This was a small event. I got my first standing ovation after the event. And I'm 20 years old, I had this dream of being a motivational speaker, and I get a standing ovation. So it's like a big deal for me, right? And I'm up there, and everyone stands up, and they start clapping. And at first, I just feel amazing, just elated. And they keep clapping, and it gets awkward for me. And I just start clapping back at them. And I'm just thinking, sit down. This is real. I don't feel comfortable. And I end up leaving just on cloud nine, and I go and I open the car door to my brand new shiny white Ford Mustang, 20 years old. That's like my dream car at that time. 5-speed transmission. I get in. It's December 3rd, 1999, by the way. I'm 20 years old. It was freezing cold up in Northern California. Start the car. Here too, by the way. New York was probably colder. And that's how I moved to Southern California. If anybody wants nice weather year-round, come on. There's plenty of room for everybody. But I start the car, and I think, you know what? I want to call Mom and Dad. I want to call my mom and dad to tell them how great the night was, and that I got a standing ovation. This is huge. But I look at the dash of my Ford Mustang, and the teal glow from the digital clock reads 11:32 p.m. And I think, you know what? They might be asleep. I don't want to wake them up. And little did I know that phone call was really the last opportunity that I would have to talk to my mom and dad for quite some time. I started the car, got onto the freeway, set the cruise control at 70 miles an hour, and the last thing I remember from that night is my best friend Jeremy getting stuck at the red light behind me on the on-ramp to the freeway and thinking, haha, too bad for Jeremy. Cruise control set at 70 miles an hour. I turned on some Tchaikovsky classical music. I was on this classical music kick. I think it was just because I wanted to look cool to any girl that went on a date with me. They're like, wow, you're really classy. I'm like, yeah, like you. So I think that's why, I don't remember. But I'm on the freeway, and what I'm about to share with you, I really don't remember. What I'm going to share with you from now, from the moment that I'm about to share for the next 2 weeks after, I have no memory of that. There's basically 2 weeks of my life that I don't have any memory of. I only know what I'm going to share with you from countless stories from friends and eyewitnesses and accident reports and hospital records and all of those things. And at approximately 11:34 p.m., a couple minutes after I got on the freeway, a man I had never met before got onto the freeway also. Only he was in a much larger vehicle than mine. He was in a Chevy full-size truck. And he got on the freeway going the wrong way. And he was apparently in the same lane that I was in. And I don't recall headlights coming at me. I don't really know what I would have been thinking in that moment. I don't know if it would have been disbelief. I don't know if I was tired. I don't know. But at around 11:36 p.m., this man I had never met before, who had 2 beers after leaving a bar, his car hit my car head-on at 70 miles an hour each. Airbag exploded. My car went spinning, and the worst was yet to come, as the car behind me didn't have time to brake, let alone swerve. They ran into my door at 70 miles an hour. And just to give everybody kind of a feeling of what that would be like, everybody put your hands up like you're on a steering wheel. Imagine you're stopped at a red light. And look to your left and imagine a car coming at you 70 miles an hour and hitting your door. Like, imagine that impact. It's unimaginable. And immediately my car was completely crushed. As the car hit me directly in the door, this side of the car was smashed into my body. And I'll share with you what injuries I sustained. I'll just take 30 seconds and I'll share this with you. So for those of you that are squeamish and this kind of thing freaks you out, this is the part where you want to plug your ears, close your eyes just for 30 seconds, and then you can open when I'm done. Actually, you don't have to close your eyes. I don't know why I said that. I'm not going to show you my scars or anything. But here's what happened. The car hit me. My femur, the largest bone in the human body, broke in half, and one half speared out the side of my thigh, put a hole in my leg. My pelvis was completely crushed between the center console, and it broke my pelvis 3 different times, 3 different places. My humerus bone behind my bicep snapped in half, and one half came out behind my elbow. My elbow was crushed. I severed the radial nerve in my left arm. I punctured my lung. I ruptured my spleen. My ear was almost completely severed, hanging on by about 1/2 of an inch. And the ceiling buckled and it sliced a V into the top of my head. And thank God that the human body can't handle that kind of pain. And I was immediately comatose. I was immediately in a coma. Well, bleeding from head to toe. You might remember my best friend Jeremy got stuck at the red light, right? So less than a minute after the accident occurred, Jeremy in his green Ford Ranger rolled up onto the scene. And he saw 3 cars, all different directions on the freeway, and he said they were still moving. My car was still rolling. And at first he didn't even recognize that, oh my gosh, that white car is totaled. And then it hit him, oh my God, that's Hal. He put his Ford Ranger in park, jumped out, ran over to me, yelling, Hal, are you okay? Hal, are you okay? And I was unresponsive. Naturally, I was in a coma, but he thought I must be dead, covered in blood. And he checked my pulse. And I had a pulse. I was still alive. He called 911. They said they're on their way. And then he called my mom and dad. And he actually woke them up out of bed. They'd already gone to bed. And he hung up. After my dad said hello, and Jeremy, my friend Jeremy, and my parents are really close, so Jeremy couldn't get the words out. And then he called back, and he said, "Mark, Mr. Elrod, Hal's been in an accident. It's pretty bad," and he went through the whole thing. And my poor parents had to drive 2 hours not knowing if I'd be dead or alive when they got there to the hospital. Well, the paramedics and the fire department had to work to use the jaws of life to cut the roof off because I was so pinned in the car that they could not pull me out. And it took them almost an hour to cut the roof off and peel it back and pull the door and try to pull me out of the car. And you can see this is looking down on the car. So this is where I was sitting. You can see where my femur was broken in half between the door and the car seat. You can see where the center console was pushed over to the side. That's where my pelvis was smashed into the center console. And when they finally pulled me out of the car, ironically, the car that had crushed me was keeping me alive because I had a big hole in my arm and a big hole in my leg, and the car was pressed very tightly against both, keeping my blood inside and flowing. When they pulled me out of the car, I bled to death. And I died on the side of the freeway. My heart stopped beating. And they rushed me onto the helicopter, the medevac helicopter. And they started working to revive me and resuscitate me. They started pumping blood back in me and giving me oxygen. And thankfully, they didn't give up after 4 or 5 minutes because it was approximately 6 minutes without a heartbeat, without any oxygen, before they got me revived and breathing. And when my parents got to the hospital 2 hours later, this is how they found me. I had 11 broken bones, permanent brain damage. I'd eventually spent 6 days in a coma, and I was told I would never walk again. That my parents were told by the doctors that if he ever comes out of the coma, or hopefully when, that he may never walk again based on the trauma that his lower body has suffered, and he has permanent brain damage, and we don't know how bad it's going to be. He could be a vegetable. Really, there's no way of knowing until we can talk to him and he responds. And they told my parents I'd be in the coma for about 6 to 12 months. Well, 6 days later, I came out of the coma, and I don't remember what it was like to wake up. Again, I've been told this by my parents. In fact, it's interesting, where my memories begin during those first couple of weeks, I don't really know what's a memory and what's a story. And I don't know where they intersect and where they overlap, and it's very fuzzy. My parents said that when I came out of the coma, it started out with me being terrified and confused and scared. And the worst part was the brain damage that I suffered. Luckily, I wasn't a vegetable, obviously. I'm a vegetarian, though, so it's close. There's a prophecy. But what ended up happening was I would fall back asleep because I was exhausted, right? When you have broken bones, you sleep a lot. Your body's just trying to heal and repair itself, so you're always tired. I was really tired. I'd fall back asleep. I'd wake up a couple hours later, and because of my brain damage, my short-term memory loss, it was like I'd woken up for the first time. And my poor parents had to relive the nightmare of telling their son what had happened and watching me react to it and experience it over and over and over and over again for the first 3 to 4 days. And then it finally started to sink in, and it started to seep into the longer-term memory, and I figured out what had happened to me, and I started to realize it. Well, sooner than later, my attitude switched from confused and scared. As soon as I was able to really acknowledge what had happened to me, I remembered something from my sales training. And by the way, this is a great lesson. This is really the first takeaway that can be a game changer for everybody. And it was called the 5-minute rule. How many minutes? 5-minute rule. And it was simply, when you're in business, when you're in sales, or in life in general, things don't always go your way, right? And my mentor taught me the 5-minute rule, which says it's okay to be negative sometimes, but not for more than 5 minutes, right? Bitch, moan, complain, vent, punch a wall, whatever you got to do, right? And you literally set your phone. I would set my timer on my phone for 5 minutes, and it would go off. I would get it out, and then I would go, okay, can't change it. And those 3 words changed my life. Ironically, the words "can't change it" changed my life. Because after 5 minutes, I'd go, take a deep breath, can't change it. And at that moment, I made a conscious decision that I will feel no negative emotion ever toward that thing anymore. I can't change it. I can't change this disappointing thing. I can't change it, so there's no point in feeling bad about it or putting energy into wishing I could change it. So the 5-minute rule, I said, I'm getting ahead of myself. I have brain damage, by the way, you guys. You'll see me all over the place today. And I'll often forget what I'm talking about, and I expect this is like a team effort. You pay attention, because I may call on you and say, what in the heck was I just talking about? And I'm counting on you. So we're in this together. So, by the way, talk about coming off of having horrible brain damage and having like no short-term memory, and then thinking, I'm going to be a motivational speaker. I'm going to go talk in front of people when I forget what I'm talking. I mean, at one point, I would literally forget mid-sentence every 30 seconds. Having conversation with me was very difficult. So as soon as I became aware of what had happened to me and I was able to start to process it, I applied the 5-minute rule. I thought, I can't change it. I can't change that I was in this accident. So the only choice I have is, how am I going to respond? What's my attitude going to be during the most difficult time in my life? And the doctors actually called my parents in one day, about 2 weeks after the accident, which means 1 week out of my coma, and they sat them down in their office and they said, Mr. and Mrs. Elrod, we're a little concerned with Hal. He's healing very well, but we believe he's in denial, because every time we see Hal or talk to Hal, he's always laughing and smiling and joking and making us laugh. And they said, that's not normal. Not for a 20-year-old accident victim that doesn't know if he's ever going to walk again. So they said, we've seen this before in accident victims where his new reality is so unbelievable, so unimaginable for him that he can't accept it. And so he's decided to pretend everything's okay and live in delusion and distract himself with food and friends and stories and laugh, whatever he can. But they said eventually he's going to have to face what happened to him. He's going to have to accept it and deal with the pain. And it's very normal for him to go through those feeling sad and feeling depressed and feeling angry. But he should start that process in here where he's in a safe environment. So Mr. and Mrs. Elrod, they said, would you please go talk to Hal and really try to get him to open up about how he's really feeling? So my parents, of course, were concerned. My dad came in. I'm laying in my hospital bed. Keep in mind, it's about a week after this picture was taken, so I didn't look much prettier than I do in this picture. And I'm in the hospital bed, right? My arm is broken in a sling. My leg's up in the air. My ear is bandaged, right? My head is shaved. And my dad comes in, and I'm watching TV. It was about 7 p.m. in the evening, and he comes in and he sits down next to the bed, and he says, Hal, can we turn off the TV and talk for just a minute? I said, yeah, Dad, what's up? Turn off the TV. And he says, hey, we haven't really talked about, it's been such a whirlwind, I know, but how are you feeling? Are you feeling sad? Angry, scared, confused, depressed? Like, it's okay to feel those things. It's normal. In fact, your mom and I are feeling all of those things. I've got to get your mom, if she got her hands on the drunk driver, I think, she wants to kill the guy for doing this to you. So I can only imagine, I can't imagine what you're going through. Are you feeling sad, angry, depressed, scared, confused? What are you feeling? And normally, I'm a very sarcastic person. So normally I would have come back with something like but I could tell my dad was holding back tears. I could tell it was really hard for him to talk to me about this. And I looked at him and I really thought about what he asked me, and I went through the range of emotions he had described. Am I feeling sad? Angry? Depressed? Scared? Confused? I said, Dad, I thought you knew me better than that. And he was kind of taken aback. What do you mean? I said, I live my life by the 5-minute rule, Dad, and it's been like 2 weeks. My 5 minutes is up. If I can't change it, well, I feel bad about it. I go, this is the worst thing I could ever imagine happening to me, and I've got a long road of recovery, so I can either be the happiest person possible and focus on all that I have to be grateful for, which I've realized is so much. I'm alive. I have unlimited opportunity for the future. I have you and Mom and Dad and hey, my sister, and I have so much to be grateful for that nothing's worth feeling sorry for myself about, because that doesn't do anything. It doesn't add value. Putting energy into wishing I could change the thing that I can't change, that my leg wasn't broken, that my arm wasn't broken, that I have 14-inch metal rod in my leg, got screws in my elbow, plates in my eye. I still to this day have all of that. I thought, and I told my dad, there's just no point in feeling sorry for myself or feeling bad about it, because that doesn't change anything. And I told my dad also, and I didn't share this earlier today, so here's a little bonus lesson for you guys. I said, Dad, the 5-minute rule, I don't even abide by it anymore. I live by the 5-second rule now. Because after I practice this for a long time, and it shifts the mindset where I go, okay, I can only be frustrated for 5 minutes. Okay, and then now I'm going to accept it. And it's like, I go, wait a minute. I didn't enjoy those 5 minutes as much as I thought I would, but I feel better now that I've accepted it. So I got to the point where 5 minutes became really long. I go, gosh dang it, this sucks. Why'd this happen? I still have 4.5 minutes of this? Like, this doesn't make sense. God. Right? So I said, Dad, it's the 5-second rule now, where I go, gosh dang it, why did that happen? Okay, what can I do now? That's it. Can't change it. What can I do now? I said, Dad, I'm working on the make it the 5-second rule. And I said, ultimately, my goal, Dad, is to accept life before it happens. Meaning I'm really working on making a decision that anything that ever happens to me in my life, once it's happened, I will accept it as it is, decide how I want anything that can be different to be different, but accept the thing that I cannot go back in the past and change. Because think about that. Well, what can you change? What can't you change? You can't change anything that's ever happened to you in the past. But almost all of our emotional pain is over that. Might have happened 5 minutes ago, right? But it's like it already happened. You can't go back and change it. So accept it as it is. Be at peace with it. And then focus on, okay, can't change that. But where do I want to go and what can I do to get there? And that was the attitude in the hospital. I want to walk again. And I told my dad, I said, look, Dad, I know you and Mom are really worried about me. And, you know, when the doctors sat us down and said I may never walk again, my parents started crying. They were crushed. And I was just kind of trying to process it all. I said, I've already decided, and you need to tell Mom this. There's only 2 possible outcomes in terms of me walking again, and they're both positive. Number 1, I never walk again. And I've already decided, since I can't change that, if I can't change it, I'll be the happiest person you've ever met in a wheelchair. Because the alternative is being the most miserable person you've ever met in a wheelchair. Like, it doesn't make sense. And I said, the other option is, and this is the one I'm betting on, Dad, the doctor said 6 to 9 months from now, I could reassess. Maybe my body will heal in a way where walking may become a possibility, and I could start therapy at that time. I said, that's what I'm betting on. I will put every ounce of faith that I have in myself, in a higher power, in my doctors. Every ounce of faith that I have will be unwavering that I will walk again until I'm absolutely proven otherwise. And my dad said, are you sure this is really how you're feeling? You're sure you're not in denial? Right? And I said, go tell the doctors that they have it backwards. They think that I'm pretending to be happy because I can't accept my reality. You can tell them, I'm really happy because I accepted my reality. And you guys, that's one of the greatest lessons, and we'll put some slides and stuff on the board moving forward. But like the greatest lesson that I learned, the 3 greatest words that I learned out of this accident are can't change it. Doesn't matter if it's you're told you may never walk again, or when I'm in traffic. And I used to hate traffic. Anybody not like traffic, by the way? All right, this will be the game changer for you. Okay, this is why you came tonight. There's a divine purpose in you being here, and it's the next 30 seconds of my message. So I used to hate traffic, right? I'd be in the car and go, and this is, by the way, is a metaphor for life. Past, present, and future. Think about being in traffic. You left the house late. How do you feel about leaving the house late? Frustrated, right? Stressed, you're regret, you're wishing you would, gosh, why do I do that? Or if somebody's in the car with you, by the way, right, it's really easy. You're like, yeah, you always make us late, right? You always blame them. It's really easy. You know, why do you always make us late? So you're sitting there in the car, and or on the subway, wherever you are going, you're creating emotional pain over a past that you can't go back in time and change. Then you hit traffic, and you go, oh, come on, go faster. Riding their butt, like that does something, right? Anybody ever find that, like, if you get frustrated enough, it clears the cars in front of you? You're like, it worked. I got really pissed off, and they all just got out of my way. No! So it's senseless. So we create emotional pain over a past that we can't change. We left the house late. We create emotional pain over the present moment that's out of our control. And then we project ourselves into a possible future, a consequence that may be out of our control. My boss will be upset. My spouse will be upset. I'm going to, whatever it is. And we get worried. Oh my gosh, I'm so upset. Right? We create this resistance to something that may or may not even happen. And I love that traffic metaphor because we create emotional pain every day we do this over the past, the present, and the future. Some people are suffering today over things that happened when we were children because it wasn't fair and we didn't deserve it. And so we somehow think that is the reason that we justify feeling bad about it. But once we accept that thing, it might not have been fair, we might not have deserved it, it might have been the worst thing ever, and nobody deserves things that have happened to us or that have been done to us. But that doesn't mean you have to keep suffering over them. you accept them. All things you can't change, and you're at peace. And so now when I'm in the car, it's very different. Now, I'm driving in the car and I go, well, I left late, can't change it. Traffic, can't change it. I'm going to be late, there might be a consequence, can't change it. So what can I do? I can enjoy the ride. I can make this the greatest car ride of my life. Every car ride, every time I hit traffic, I think, how can I be more grateful than I've ever been before? I call my car the Gratitude Mobile just to remind me that whenever I have nothing to do in there, if I'm not listening to an audiobook or I'm in traffic, I'm just going to be grateful. It's one of the greatest things to do. It's almost a gratitude meditation. And I don't just see, there's a difference, by the way, between intellectual gratitude and deep, heartfelt, soulful gratitude. Intellectual gratitude is like, well, of course I'm grateful. I've got lots of things to be grateful for. And, my family and my friends and my life. Like up here, you're like, yeah, of course I'm grateful. Then there's deep, heartfelt, soulful gratitude where it puts you in tears because you think deeply and you feel deeply how blessed we all are to have so much that we take for granted. Relationships, material things like we have a roof over our head, we have clothing on our back. We have most of us have jobs. There's so much to be grateful for that we take for granted. And so I decided to accept what I couldn't change, which was that I was in a car accident. And I decided to focus on being grateful for everything I had and thinking positively about what I wanted. I wanted to walk again. And if I couldn't walk, I was willing to accept that, but not until I was proven that I couldn't walk. Power of positive thinking, call it what you want, but 3 weeks later, this picture was taken. And the doctors came in with routine x-rays that morning, and they said, Mr. and Mrs. Elrod, Hal, we've got some good news. Your body is healing incredibly. Again, this is 3 weeks after I was found dead, 2 weeks after I came out of the coma and was told I may never walk again, right? 2 weeks. And that if I ever did walk again, the process would start in 6 to 9 months. And they said, we don't know how to explain it, but we're going to let you try and walk in therapy today. It was amazing. And this picture was taken, I took my first step. And 7 weeks after this picture was taken, I went home. I left the hospital. And I got back to work against doctor's orders. And I started selling Cutco again. Actually, I started trying to sell Cutco to the doctors and nurses. That was actually one of the first things I started doing, was trying to sell, I'm like, dude, the doctors have money, right? So I'm trying to sell them these high-end knives. And I don't know if I sold any of the doctors or nurses, but I got out of the hospital and I went to work. I had to have my mom and dad drive me to appointments because I didn't have my driver's license because of my brain damage. I couldn't drive for 6 months. I could barely walk. In fact, my nerve was severed, so to do my demonstration, I have to show knives and hold rope. This was the extent of the movement in my hand for 6 months. I couldn't lift up my hand or my fingers. I literally walked. And by the way, if you have friends that are immature jerks like I do, and you're in the hospital walking around like this, right? They'd be like, what's up, Hal? How are you? And I'm like, dude, how am I kicking a guy when he's down? I can't do anything about that, right? Leave me alone. So this step was taken. And these 3 words, can't change it, I mentioned. Everything from the most difficult challenge in my life to being in traffic. By the way, here's another lesson I didn't teach today at all. A deeper lesson on the can't change it philosophy. Every negative emotion that we ever have is a result of us wishing we could change something. It's putting energy into resisting something that we can't change. And to the degree that we resist it, that we wish it weren't happening, that we wish things were different, is the degree that we cause emotional pain. Intense resistance creates intense emotional pain. Acceptance is the only way to be free from that. Doesn't mean you're happy that something happened to you. Doesn't mean you're happy about how someone treated you. Doesn't mean you're happy that there's traffic. But it means you're at peace with those things. And that's much more powerful. That's rooted. Happiness is an emotion. It goes away as soon as you get bad news if you're not willing to live in a state of unconditional acceptance. But here's an important distinction. All pain in relationships is a result of the same thing. See, this is not just applicable to adversity in your life or challenges or obstacles or difficult circumstances. No, think about your feelings about another person. Where does frustration come from? I wish he didn't do that. Why does he always do that? How come he never listens? You're not accepting them as they are, or accepting what they've done. You're resisting it, wishing it weren't the way that it is. And to the degree that you resist it is the degree that you create emotional pain. In this case, not only for ourselves, but for the people that we care most about. Because we're not willing to just accept them as they are. And if anything, if someone does something that you don't like, rather than getting frustrated with them, getting angry with them, right? Accept it, be at peace with it. Doesn't mean that you can't ask each other to grow and to improve and to change behavior. Just like when something goes wrong in your life and you can't change it, you accept it. Doesn't mean you don't want to take new action to grow and to improve, but you can't go back in time and change it. And we can't change other people. So when you accept all things you can't change, I encourage you to apply that to your relationship. And look at the peace, the peacefulness that starts to arise in your relationships, the love, the space. Here's the thing, when you don't accept the things you can't change, whether it's in your own life or in a relationship, you create this negativity, and that negativity takes up all the space for love and joy and gratitude and positivity. But when you accept all things you can't change, you create space to invite anything you want into your life. Whether it is love, or it is gratitude, or it is excitement, or it is positivity, whatever it is. Acceptance allows you to be at peace and create open space to live your life as you want it to be. As great as you want it to be in every moment. When you're in traffic, there's no space for gratitude and happiness when you're frustrated. But as soon as you go, can't change it, can't change the traffic, there's space. You go, interesting. All the negative emotions I normally feel in this situation are gone. What should I do now? What do I want to feel? I want to feel excited. I'm going to dream. I want to feel happy. I'm just focus on what I'm grateful for. I want to feel love. I'm going to think about the people in my life that I love. And I'll tell you, I've shared this message, the Can't Change It philosophy, with tens of thousands of people around the world. Technically, that's the U.S. and Canada. I haven't spoken anywhere else, but I'm international. As soon as I spoke in Canada, I was like, international speaker on my website, right? So, tens of thousands of people in the U.S. and Canada, technically. But I spoke once to a group of college students, and this was a few years back, actually probably 7 years ago, and I got an email about 4 days after I gave the speech, and this email put me in tears, and I'm about to show you the picture that put me in tears in a second. But she emailed me and said, Hal, I saw you speak a few days ago, and when you talked about acceptance and the Can't Change It philosophy, you made me realize that I get upset every day over something I can't change, whether it's a little thing or a big thing. But she said the biggest thing is, my dad died 10 years ago yesterday. It's the 10-year anniversary of his death date yesterday. And I've spent the last 10 years, she said, feeling horrible and suicidal and depressed over losing the most important person in my life. And until I heard you share the message that you shared, I thought that I felt that way because he died. See, we all think that it's the thing that we're resisting and feeling frustrated or angry or upset about. We think it's the thing that's causing us to feel that way, when in reality, it's our response to the thing. Because the same thing can happen to two different people, and one person goes, well, yeah, that's the worst thing that ever happened to me, but I can't change it. Why would I be upset about it? And the other person goes, this is ruining my life. I don't deserve this. So she said, you made me realize that if I just accepted that he was gone and stopped wishing that he weren't, and stopped wishing that he could still be here, and resisting that he died. She said, I've spent the last 3 days the happiest that I've been in the last 10 years. I'm at peace now with it. And I can't even, she said, I can't thank you enough. And she said, I wanted a permanent reminder. I bought your Can't Change It wristband for a few dollars at the event, and I've worn it for the last 3 days, but I wanted a permanent reminder. So I went and got this permanent tattoo in memory of my dad. She said, and I will never, ever, ever, ever again cry a tear of sadness or anger. I'll just, if I cry, it's going to be because of who he meant to me and who I am as a result of being his daughter. And I was in tears reading this going, wow, these 3 words are life-changing. Now, and I forgot to mention this earlier today when I spoke, but this is the first of, I believe it is, I don't know if it's 5 or 6 or 7, but somewhere between 5 and 7 tattoo pictures that I've been emailed from people that have gotten, one girl got a tattoo on her shoulder, I've gotten like 3 on the wrist, I had 1 on the foot, I had 1 like above the boob, which I thought was a weird, odd choice. But those 3 words are extraordinarily powerful. And to wrap up this part of the message, and then we're going to get into the miracle morning, and I'm not going to go, well, you guys will see. But so I call this the ABCs of Taking Life Head On. My first book is called Taking Life Head On, and these are the 3 lessons that I felt were the most life-changing lessons that I learned through my accident and my recovery. The A is for accept all things you can't change, and we talked a lot about that. The B is for be grateful for everything, and let me give you a little bit more depth on that. Be grateful for everything. You'll notice the word everything is in capital letters. So in life, we all have 2 pages, metaphorically speaking, 2 pages to focus on. One page lists everything we have to feel happy about, be grateful for. Everything makes us feel good. Everything on that page. Our friends, our family, are the things we like about ourselves, our successes, our opportunities, things that excite us, things that, everything we have to feel good about and be grateful for is on this page. We also have this page that lists everything we have to feel bad about, get frustrated about. And it could be small, like traffic today. Or it could be big. It could be things we look in the mirror and go, I hate my thighs. Right? I've got so many things on this page. Every time I look in the mirror, I realize how many negative things are on this page. So here's the deal. You ever meet somebody, or do you know anyone, or maybe it's you, that complains a lot? Raise your hand if you know anybody that complains a lot. If you're not raising your hand, it is you, by the way, and you're maybe not aware. So, you ever hear that person say, I'm not negative? Some of you, by the way, are going to go, oh my gosh, I do this all the time. I say this all the time. You ever heard somebody say, I'm not negative though, I'm just realistic? You ever heard that, right? Said that? BS. Let me ask you a question. And next time somebody says that, or next time you say it, you find yourself saying it, I want you to respond with this. How is it any more realistic to think about, talk about, dwell on the negative things in life, on the news, in our lives, in our past, in our relationships? How is that any more realistic than for us to choose to focus on and think about and dwell on all of the things that we have to be grateful for in our lives? See, both are equally realistic, but you better choose real carefully where you spend most of your time, because it literally determines the quality of your life, of your relationships, your everything. We all have both pages. Celebrities have both pages. You see a lot of celebrities that have everything they ever dreamt of, but they live over here, so they turn to drugs or alcohol, or some of them suicide. Is it because they have worse problems than you or I? Because they don't have as many good? No. Every human being on this planet, the quality of our life has very little to do with what's going on around us, and almost everything to do with what's going on inside of us, based on what we focus on at any given moment. This is something like for my wife. Is she flawless? Yes. But, because this is videotaped, right? Okay. In case she ever sees it? Okay. Sweetie, I love you. All right, so, no. But here's the thing, right? I'm very rarely, there's probably a million things she does wrong, but I don't even, I've trained myself to where I don't even look at those things. I hardly ever, she actually thinks she is the perfect wife, I think. Sometimes I have to bring her down to earth, because I just focus on, like this. All she hears from me is praise all day long. All my kids hear from me is praise. Not that I discipline them, especially my wife, I have to discipline her sometimes. No, I'm just kidding. But no, right? But this is where I live. So it's not that see, the doctors, here's the thing, is they thought I was in denial, like I couldn't acknowledge this stuff. Like, oh, it's too painful. I'm just going to live over in la la land, but eventually I'll have to face this. What they didn't realize is I looked at this and I was like, yep, that happened. Man, I never would have expected that to happen. Wow, that's difficult. That's going to be hard to overcome. Learning to walk again, maybe never walking again. Got it. Okay. This is where I'm going to live. Be grateful for everything. And here's the interesting thing. You notice it says everything, not just the good things. It's easy to be grateful for friends, family. No. How can you be grateful for your adversity in the midst of it? Because that's one of the things that I think that I did is I went, you know what? Everything happens for a reason, and I always wanted to be a motivational speaker. I'm in the hospital telling my dad this. Well, Dad, I always wanted to be a motivational speaker, but you and Mom were really good to me. I don't really have anything that's that cool to talk about. I never would have asked for this to be the thing. I would have rather been like David Schnurman or Joe Apfelbaum and just created an amazing success story and parlayed that into a speech. But it is what it is, right? So be grateful. And I'll tell you, people go, oh, that accident you were in, oh, that's horrible. No, that's the greatest thing that ever happened to me. Nothing ever taught me more. Nothing ever forced me to dig deeper into what I was capable of and overcome something that allowed me to become the person that I needed to be, to inspire my family and other people, and also myself, to overcome everything in the future that was bound to come my way. And then the C is for create daily progress towards becoming the person you need to be to create your vision. Create daily progress towards the person you need to be, becoming the person you need to be to create your vision. This, before the Miracle Morning came about, this middle line wasn't in here. It said create daily progress towards creating your vision. And then I learned the most valuable lesson in my life. And that's what we're going to get into. Is that it's not what you do that matters nearly as much as who you become. You work towards a goal and you don't reach it, most people think that's a failure. Not if you really gave it your all, because you became the type of person that can give it their all in future circumstances and endeavors. Who you're becoming is far more important than what you're doing, and yet it's what you're doing that determines who you're becoming. So my second rock bottom, which you see surprisingly worse than the first, most people don't, they go, whoa, how do you get worse than dying, right? So 2008, the U.S. economy started to go downhill. It felt like almost overnight. I had just bought my first new house. I had just bought a new car. I was like, life was good. My business was thriving. I was a success coach. And almost overnight, I lost over half of my clients because when they were debating, okay, pay the mortgage or pay Hal, who's a really nice guy, and if I tell him a sob story, I guarantee will let me out of my coaching contract, right? That was an easy one for them. So I let all these people out of their coaching contract. I lost over half my income. I couldn't pay my bills, couldn't pay my mortgage, was $50,000 in credit card debt, and stopped exercising completely because I woke up and worked all day long until I went to bed, and I was trying to survive. My relationship was declining because I was depressed and I was stressful. I lost my house that I just bought a year and a half earlier. And 6 months of this downward spiral that got worse and worse and worse. And the reason I say it was harder than the accident is because at the accident it really was rock bottom. Like, okay, I died. I can't really go any lower. Like, the only place to go is up from here, right? But in 2008, 2009, I was like, oh my gosh, another client canceled. What am I going to do? So much fear, so much uncertainty. It can't get any worse. Please, God, don't let it get any worse. And then another client canceled. See, that's why it was so difficult. It's like the uncertainty of, it just keeps getting worse. By the way, anybody around in 2008, 2009, remember those times? That wasn't just me going through that period, was it? No? Okay. So, after all of this, my wife, 6 months of this, she finally goes, Hal, sweetie pie, I love you, and I don't know what I can do to help you, so I feel like you should reach out and get help from someone, get advice from someone. Because see, I didn't tell you the important part. I was a success coach, right? So how could I call people? Hey, I'm failing miserably. Do you know anyone that needs a success coach? Right? So I was like insecure about being vulnerable to people about what I was going through because it was against my identity. I'm a success coach and I'm failing miserably. And so she said, call your friend John. John, very successful entrepreneur. He's now a CEO, very young CEO. And she said, John is brilliant. He's a genius. He loves you. He's not going to like tell people. You can trust, and he cares about you. I'm sure he can help you. And it clicked. I'm like, gosh, you're right. Why didn't I do that a while ago? And I finally got on the phone and I called John sitting at my desk in my office, and I'm ready to take notes. And I think, okay, John's going to have the answer. Like 1, 2, 3, Hal, do this, this, and this. Boom. You'll fix your business. You'll turn it around. You'll make money. And I called John. I said, John, hey, buddy, I got to talk to you, man. I really like serious talk. Do you have a few minutes? He said, yeah. What's going on, bud? And I told him, and I unloaded. I told him everything. And I'm sitting there, I've got my computer open, I'm taking notes, tell me how to turn this around, I will do anything you say, man. I'm desperate, I'll do anything. And I'm ready for this prolific business advice. And he goes, no, are you exercising every day? I was like, what the hell does that have to do with anything? Are you listening to anything I'm saying? No, I'm not exercising every day. I'm depressed, man. I can't get out of bed. Don't make me say that out loud again. He says, no, Hal, I'm not kidding. I'm serious. I'm listening. He said, you're a smart guy, but if you're just sitting at your desk depressed all day, fearful all day, you're not going to think of any ideas that are going to turn things around. He said, you got to get out the front door every day. You got to go for a run. You've got to get oxygen and blood to your brain so you can think clearer, so you can make better decisions. You've got to release the endorphins that exercise releases so you can feel better and you can make better decisions. I said, John, I hate running, dude. Give me anything else to do. He said, very serious. He said, what do you hate worse, running or your current life situation? I was like, all right, screw you, man. I'll go for a run. Okay, what do I do on that run? He said, listen to self-help. Grab your iPod, listen to a self-help audio, an audiobook on success, on mindset, on business building, on anything that can spark new ideas while you're in a peak mental and physical state, right? You're running, the oxygen's flowing, the blood's flowing. Not sitting at your desk slunched over with no oxygen to your brain, with your blood pressure down. He said, go run and think about how to solve your problems. And guess what, Hal? I promise you, you'll think of solutions. Little did I know that was the call that would change my life. And the next morning, I went on a run, not a runner, hated running, went on a run. I went on a run with very negative internal dialogue, right? God, this is so stupid. Why I hate running, and running is not going to make me any money. This is so stupid. Right? But I told John I would, right? Grabbed my iPod, which I was this close to selling for food, and I listened to a Jim Rohn audio. Any Jim Rohn fans? So if you don't know Jim Rohn, he passed away recently, rest in peace, but he is like the godfather of personal development. And he was Tony Robbins' mentor, if you know Tony Robbins. And I go on the run, and I'm listening to the audio, and I hear a quote from Jim Rohn that actually becomes the quote that changes my life. It becomes my life philosophy to this day. And here's the quote from Jim Rohn. He says, your level of success will rarely exceed your level of personal development, because success is something you attract by the person you become. And it hit me. I literally stopped running and I rewound it and I listened to it again. And I thought, I'm not dedicating time every day to personal development so that I can become the person that I need to be to create the success that I want. Here's a way to think of it. If we're measuring success on a scale of 1 to 10, what level do we want? 10. And do we just want 10 in our career or in our business, or do we want it in our health? Level 10 finances. Yeah, you're like, good job, Joe. 10. Yeah. I planted him in the audience for all the responses that I need. Yeah. So we want level 10 health, level 10 finances, level 10 relationships, level 10 spirituality, level 10 energy, right? Why is 5 Hour Energy a $1 billion company? Because we're struggling for energy. We want more energy. And I went home and I pulled out my computer and I Googled, because personal development is a vague topic kind of, right? I'm like, what is that? Reading? What is that? So I Googled best personal development practices. And I went through and I'm reading Forbes articles and Huffington Post articles and everything I can find online. And I ended up coming up with a list of 6 practices. 6 that everybody swears by. But I was disappointed because I had heard of all of them. Right? Aren't we always looking for the magic bullet? The thing we've never seen, that we've never heard? It's going to be, right? Oh, you've never heard before. The newest invention, they found this new molecule that if you take it, you'll lose weight really fast, right? We're looking for the thing we never heard of. Because we already tried all the things that we heard of, and they didn't work for us. Or did we not make them work for us? So, at first I'm disappointed, and then it hits me. I don't do any of these things every day. All 6 of these, I don't do any of them every day. And I decide, okay, I'm going to try a few of them. But which one should I do? It was meditation, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and journaling. I had tried all of them, never mastered any of them. I mean, never even come close to mastering them. And so I thought, which ones should I do? Maybe I'll do one, maybe I'll do two. And then it hit me, what if I did all 6? That would be like personal development, like turbocharged, accelerated, right? And so I decided to try all 6 the next day, but I think, when am I going to do it? I'm not a morning person, but that was the only time that made sense. And I kept remembering how many successful people start their day with some sort of successful ritual. In fact, I love this quote from Eben Pagan. Your first ritual that you do each day is your highest leverage ritual by far, because it sets your mindset and the context for the rest of your day. And so I think, all right, I'm going to do it. I'm not a morning person, but I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. tomorrow, and I'm going to do all 6 of these. And I wake up the next morning, and by the way, I didn't know how to do any of those really. I mean, I know how to read or exercise, but like I had to Google how to meditate. I had to Google how to do visualization. And I go through and I do all 6, and I start the day in silence, 10 minutes of meditation and prayer, and I feel peaceful. Now keep in mind, this is the time in my life when I used to wait till I had to wake up at the last minute, hit the snooze button a few times, get out of bed, feeling depressed, defeated, discouraged, unsuccessful, unconfident, and go to work and try to put on a happy face for my clients and go home and crawl into bed and escape beneath the covers. But I wake up that morning and I'm feeling optimistic for the first time in 6 months. And I do 10 minutes of meditation. I read affirmations that remind me of how powerful we all are. That my potential isn't based on who I was in the past, but it's based on who I can become in the future, in the moment. I close my eyes and I visualize what I want. I see it. It becomes real. I visualize myself doing what I need to do to make it a reality, and I feel I want to open my eyes and actually do the thing because I just saw it. I do 10 minutes of jumping jacks and yoga and just whatever I could do just to move my body, and I felt alive, I felt energized. I felt so much better. I pull out a self-help book and I read 5 pages and I feel I got some ideas that I can implement right away. I pull out my journal, I write down what I'm grateful for, and I feel grateful. I write down what I'm going to do that day to win that day. What do I have to do to make that day great? I don't let the day happen to me. I don't let my life happen to me, but I decide what's going to happen that day to make sure that I win that day. And 6 a.m. rolls around, and I'm on fire. I feel amazing. Now, here's the interesting thing. Did my outer world change, right? Did my bank account balance change? Did my creditors go away? Did my house all of a sudden come back? No. My life was still a mess. But remember, it's not what's outside of you, it's what's inside of you that matters. I started to become the person that I needed to be to turn my life around and create everything I wanted for my life. And theoretically, at that moment, I thought, this could be the one thing that changes everything. If I feel this good every day at 6 a.m., holy crap, I'm going to be unstoppable. And so I started waking up at 5 a.m. and doing it every day for the next week. After 1 week, did I stop? No, I went, this is so good, I want more of it. What am I going to do, wake up at 4? I'm going to get up at 4 tomorrow. I've gotten up at 4 a.m. or earlier for the last 5, how many years now? 7 years, 4 years, 6 years? Every day. I get up at 4, and it's even better the next morning, right? Wow, 2 hours of this. And here's why I started calling it the miracle morning. There was no name for it. It was literally in my schedule, personal development at 5 a.m. I start calling it the miracle morning because 2 months of doing this, and as a direct result of my morning routine, I completely transformed my life. My depression goes away, not in 2 months. It was gone. I mean, it was gone. Here's the thing. It wasn't completely gone that morning, but that first morning, it started to go away because I saw what was possible for me. But here's what would happen is I'd have a bad day. Another client would cancel. The neat thing about my morning is every night going to bed, it wasn't like I got to wake up to face my problems again tomorrow. It was like I get to wake up tomorrow and do me time. I get to do my morning routine, and I love it. It's amazing. It's exciting. I can't wait to go to bed, not to escape my problems, but so I can just fall asleep so I can wake up because the morning is so good. Within 2 months, I had more than doubled my income as a result of what I was doing in the morning. My journaling, my planning, my reading. I had more than doubled my income. My relationship, as a result of my depression and everything going away, my relationship and me becoming happy again, my true self, my relationship transformed. And I went from being in the worst shape of my life physically, where I hadn't been exercising for 6 months to training for a 52-mile ultra marathon that I ended up completing after, and that was all the result of the miracle morning. And I started calling it, this is my miracle morning. Like, it feels like a miracle how fast it changed my life. Now, fast forward, I started teaching to my coaching clients, but they weren't sure if they weren't morning people, but they thought, I'll try it, Hal. You're my coach. I pay you a good amount of money to coach me, so I got to do, I got to at least give it a shot. Every single one, same response. A week later, Hal, oh my gosh, I've never been a morning person. This is amazing. I've never felt so motivated, so energized, so encouraged. Like, this is amazing. And then I decided, again, it's that sense of responsibility. I've got to share this with other people. I want to read one more quote from John Maxwell. You will never change your life until you change something you do daily. The secret to your success is found in your daily routine. And what routine starts the day? Only your morning routine, right? There's no other routine. You can do a midday routine, but you already have not necessarily optimized the first half of the day. So it's that morning routine. And these are the 6 practices that make up the miracle morning. Silence. So not just meditation. It was originally for meditation, but it's prayer, meditation, deep breathing. What's the word I'm looking for? I said it earlier today. Devotionals. Devotional. Right? Whatever you do, whatever silence is for you to get in touch with higher power, to get in touch with your truest self. Affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing, which is a fancy word for journaling, for writing, right? And I owe that to the thesaurus. I can't take credit. My vocabulary is not that good. So. And I'm going to wrap this up with a 30-day challenge for everybody. And then, by the way, I do have books available. If anybody wants to get a book, I told David I would do a really cool deal, so I'll make that up between now and the end of the speech. The 30-day challenge, as a coach, I have spent a lot of time studying habits. Because if you think about it, right, our life is a result of our habits. If you are healthy and energized and in shape, you probably have dietary habits and exercise habits that produce those results in your life, right? If you have a happy marriage, you probably have habits in place like date night or talking to each other or listening to each other, right? Or living by the can't change it philosophy and accepting when the other person does something that isn't perfectly what you expected of them, right? If you have, if you have money, it means you have spending and saving and earning habits that are in line. So it's all about our habits. And if we want to change our life, we have to change our habits. So I've done extensive research, reading books and articles and doing a lot of experimentation on what does it take to really get a habit, identify the habits that matter, implement them into your life, and as important is sustain them. So they become a permanent fixture that will change your life forever. Because here's the thing. This is arguably the most important skill that you can master. And when I say skill, I mean habit mastery is arguably the most important skill that you can learn and master. Because if you understand how to identify the habits that you need to either change in your life, get rid of, add in, and then you have a strategic system, a strategy to implement those habits and then ensure that they sustain for the long run, you can change your life easily, at will, whenever you want. I try to live my life in 30-day challenges, right? I say live your life in 30-day challenges. Every 30 days, pick at least one new habit and change it. And imagine 12 months from now, if you take 12 things that you want to change in your life, behaviors, habits, imagine if every year you change 12, you'd make more progress in 1 year than most people make in a lifetime in terms of habits. But they never teach you this in school. Did anybody take a habit mastery class in high school? No, it's the most important thing we can learn, arguably, but we don't learn it. So here's what I believe is the simplest but most effective philosophy and strategy for habit mastery. It's a 30-day process. The first 10 days feel unbearable, right? Who's felt that before, trying to change a habit? You're like, oh my God, I hate this. All right, like when I was learning to run, I'm like, I didn't believe I was a runner. So I'm like, oh, I'm so sore and I ache, right? Then the next morning I wake up and I'm like, oh my gosh, everything hurts from yesterday. It was just unbearable. But let me ask you a question. When you identify a habit that can change your life for the better and forever, can you do anything for 10 days even if it feels unbearable for those 10 days? Yeah, of course, right? You can. But here's the problem. Most people don't have this awareness, so they don't know that it's a finite period of unbearableness, if that's a word. Right? Meaning on day 4, they're like, oh my God, it still feels horrible, just like yesterday. Then day 5, they're like, oh my gosh, if this is how the new habit feels, screw that. I'm throwing in the towel. That's why you go to the gym. The first few days of January, the first week, it's packed. Go week 3, and it's empty again. The parking lot's empty. Nobody's there anymore. Because they all threw in the towel. Because they were never taught this. First 10 days feel unbearable. But when you know that it's a finite period, and you know that, okay, 10 days are going to be tough, but I'll push through it. I can make it. The second 10-day period, uncomfortable. It's no longer something you hate, but it's still not something you love yet. You're still getting acclimated to the new habit. So when I'm running, I'm like, I don't really want to do this, not really enjoying this, but I wasn't hating it anymore. But the power, the magic, the miracle happens between days 21 and 30, which you can see is the unstoppable phase. And here's how it happens. Here's what makes you unstoppable during that time. It's when you wake up one day and you're getting ready to engage in the new habit. So for me, getting ready to run. And for the first time in my entire life, it was around day 23, I think. So it's not an exact science. It might be day 18, could be day 22. Around day 23 for me, I'm like, I get to go run today. And I stopped. I was like, did I just get excited that I get to go run today? And I was like, yeah, I'm actually looking forward to this. Because you've got through those difficult times and now you're enjoying the benefits of the new habit. And so here's why, think about it. Why does that make you unstoppable? Because something that 3 weeks ago you were dreading and hating, it felt unbearable, and now you're looking forward to it. Is it hard to do things that you're excited to do and look forward to? It's not hard at all. And that's how you create a habit. And let me take one last lesson on this, an important distinction. Some people mistake that feeling with, I did it, I made it, I'm a runner. It's day 21, and now I finally want to do it. I'm going to reward myself by taking a week off. And if you do that, think about what happens. A week goes by, or a few days go by, maybe even the weekend, whatever it is, you got this reward time of you should reward yourself by doing more of the habit, not doing it at all. But then what happens is you look back. Let me ask you a question. If the first 10 days of your habit were unbearable, the next 10 days were uncomfortable, and you had one day where you felt unstoppable, is that mostly negative feelings toward the habit or mostly positive? It's mostly negative, right? 20 days of negativity, one good day. The final 10 days is so important because you got to wake up every day and go, I'm doing it, I'm doing it, I'm doing it. I'm a runner, I'm an early riser, I'm unstoppable. And reinforce it day after day after day so that when you look back at the end of the 30 days, the last 10 days were great, were amazing. And you go, wow, I can do this the rest of my life. And I believe living your life in 30-day challenges is truly one of the most important things that you can do to always take your life to the next level. Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, relationally, financially, you name it. And I'm going to close this with a quote. The number one cause of unfulfilled potential is never deciding that now matters more than any other time in your life. Because it does. And I opened up by talking about that mindset of there's always tomorrow, there's always next week, there's always next month. My challenge to everybody here, and it's more of an encouragement, it's more of a, hey, let's give this a shot, is to whatever time you wake up right now, the 30-day challenge, the Miracle Morning Challenge, is to wake up earlier than you have to. Remember, we either wake up because we have to be somewhere, do something, we resist waking up, hit the snooze button, or because we want to become the person that we need to be that's capable of easily creating and attracting and sustaining the quality of life that we all really want, tapping into our full potential. So my challenge, the 30-day challenge, is that you commit to wake up, it doesn't even have to be an hour, at least 30 minutes earlier. 30 minutes earlier than you do now. And you also don't have to do the full Miracle Morning. In fact, if you end up getting the book after the speech, your Miracle Morning for the first 30 days could just be reading the Miracle Morning, right? That's fine. Or maybe you just do 30 minutes of exercise. The point, the essence of the Miracle Morning in its simplest form is that you wake up every morning before you're required to wake up to be somewhere. You wake up because you want to become the person that you need to be to create the life that you want. So if it means you wake up and all you do is go for a run and listen to a self-help book. It means you wake up every morning and you meditate for 30 minutes. It means you wake up every morning and you journal for 30 minutes. Maybe you do a combination of a couple of them. But you wake up with a sense of passion and purpose to live the most extraordinary life that you can live starting with becoming the most extraordinary person that you can become. So if you're with me and that doesn't sound like a horrible way to live the next 30 days, raise your hand. All right, and now you need to get an accountability buddy because it's easy to let yourself off the hook, right? You need to let. In fact, we have a really cool Facebook group, the Miracle Morning Community. I invite all of you to join it. It's arguably the most inspired, encouraging group of people that are all doing the Miracle Morning and reading it. Some aren't yet. They just found out from a friend before they even got the book. And they're saying, day one of my challenge, I'm accountable. I'll check in every single morning, right? And once you put yourself out there and you give your word to something, you're that much more likely to follow through. So that's all I got. That's all I've got for you guys. I really want to thank you for coming. And I mentioned I do have books available. I don't have that many. I didn't even count. What do we have, like 20 or something? So they're normally $20 a piece, and I'll do them for $15 if anybody wants to get a book today. $15. I'll autograph it for you. That's only $100 more. Just kidding. No, $15. I'll sign it to you or as a gift to anybody that you want. And again, thanks for coming out. I appreciate your valuable time, and I hope you got some value that you can go home with and improve your life today. Thank you so much.
Thank you again to everybody, and I really appreciate how you coming to New York to share your knowledge.
One last thing. I just made this really ugly slide recently. It's really ugly. I didn't get to finish it, so I was playing with different styles. Anyway, so it's really ugly. But if you guys want, it's also very narcissistic. It has like my name in the third person at the top. Get more of me, whatever. But this is value. So if you have a cell phone, if you text your first name and your email address to that number, it goes to me. This isn't like spamming. You're not going to go into some database. This is going to me. You'll get on my community. So I do like a weekly podcast, a motivational, inspirational. It's called Achieve Your Goals, the Achieve Your Goals podcast. You'll get videos from me, audios. You'll actually get a couple free chapters of the book. You'll get a free motivational video and all of this stuff. And then I'll be able to stay in touch with you, and you can opt out at any time if you don't want it. But if anybody wants to, you can text your first and last name to that number. Don't judge me based on the graphic design work that I've done on this slide. And anyway, I just saw that I still had that in there, so I'll leave it up. So that's it. David, thanks for having me, man. Thank you.